As I said before, I was a martial arts instructor for many years. I used to teach kids, I still do, but I guess now we can't get close to them, so it's very difficult. Can't teach them over the internet, you know, how to do martial arts. That's not gonna work. You gotta make contact with them. So, but the point is, having said that, there's a method that I use, and it really works, and this is just what I do. I'm working with other people's kids. So first of all, I'm not trying to spank or hit other people's kids, but then we do need to understand something, that in the real world, people might hit you. People might make physical contact with you, you know, in a situation that's aggressive. So I teach, I've noticed this works, and it worked with my nieces as well. My nieces, I have two nieces, one is 10, one is 9. And there's a thing that I do that's similar to what I do in the martial arts. I don't have it with me, but maybe I'll bring it later. I have it in my car. I should have brought it. It's a fan. It's a folding fan. You know, one of those Japanese folding fans. Yeah. And in the martial arts, we use that. It's called Tessen Jitsu. It's a fan technique. It's what the samurai swordsmen used to carry. They carried it in there, you know, as a fan to use when they couldn't bring their sword into a house. So they had the fan, but the fan is the same principle, so it's a defensive weapon. So anyway, I use that and it's a flag, an American flag on it. And I teach them about the flag, the values of saying the Pledge of Allegiance. You give your pledge, your allegiance to God and country. And in that same vein, I use the fan, I snap it open. It opens and it's very loud. It goes pop. When it makes that popping sound, the kids do, oh, you know, like that. And I don't do it to scare them or frighten them. I do it to get their attention. And I get to the point where all I have to do is show the fan. When they're out of line or out of step, I hold the fan up. That's all I have to do. And they straighten themselves up. And I say, oh, now you got control of your body. And that's what I'm constantly reinforcing in them. So there is a way to work with kids, and that's the way I do it. And it works really well with my nieces. When they start getting a little bit out of control, belligerent, you know, one of them gets this smart aleck out of, you know, she's rolling her eyes. My wife says, Ashley's rolling her eyes again. I just hold the fan up like this and look at her. And she says, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, it's just one of those things.
When she gets
yeah, that's what I do. So I never have to touch them, never have to hit them. I just show the fan and they straighten themselves out. So, you know, you have to use certain different types of methods, that's all. And that's what I do.
So I'll shamelessly pimp my book here for just a second. We wrote a book to help parents with this particular topic, and won an award with USA Best Books. So that's done. I'm done pimping the book. I'm gonna touch 3 things here.
What's the title?
The title is called Love Loudly. It's about how to let love be our intentional message, opposed to fear being the unintentional message. So that's the book. You just look up Mark Cripen. It's, you know, Mark C. Cripen. Anyway, enough of that. Teaching consequences. So I've been the guy who's arrested a parent and taken children away. Okay, I've done that. That's part of the job. So I want to make sure that we're crystal clear here. The difference between teaching a consequence and child abuse. The gentleman that I arrested, you know, that 6 degrees of separation, he knew somebody I knew. So when he got out of jail, he was telling everybody that he went to jail for spanking his kid. Okay? He went to jail because he whipped his 10-year-old boy with an extension cord that left oozing open wounds all over his back and butt. That's what he went to jail for. The nurse at the school called us, I got the call, and I went. Okay? So there is a significant line that a parent should not cross. Okay? Now, that said, child abuse, the first child abuse law went on the books in 1972. I was born in 64, so my mom had free reign over me.
Even after that.
Even after that. When we talk about teaching consequences, just the idea of teaching, okay? Most parents have no clue how to deal with this. And I say that because I just finished up 29 years with the Sheriff's Department, 20 of them helping parents learn how to actually work with their child and getting them to do what needs to be done, okay? So teaching a child a consequence doesn't have to be physical force, plain and simple. There could be other consequences. Okay, we told parents to take off the door. Privacy is not a privilege. Privacy is not an entitlement, it's a privilege, okay? I've even suggested taking off a door of the bathroom that kids use. Because when you go in the military or you go to prison, you do not get neither. Okay? There is no privacy. I know a fellow Marine right here, when you had a head call, it's wide open. There's no. Okay? And trust me, I've worked in the jail. There's no privacy. If you want to be a knucklehead, this is what you get to deal with. Okay? Certain things are a privilege. So when we talk about teaching consequence, I went to a 911 call. The kid called, said mom and dad were abusing him. I showed up. We listened to both sides of the story. We basically chastised the minor and said, here's the deal, you call us again, you're gonna have a problem with us. And then we took the minor in front of the parents and said, if you would like, we will watch you, we'll supervise you, give your child a spanking. And the kid about died, you know. It's like, this is the reality of it. So, under 300 wick, open hand, palm to the buttocks is not considered serious physical harm. That's the law. But most of us do not know what the law says about hitting your kid, spanking your kid, or disciplining your kid. Okay, you don't know what the law is. That's the travesty of this whole conversation. No one's teaching you what the law is. The other part of this is, and last, I'll pass this on. A lot of these issues that we deal with, there are custody battles. So it's interesting that you have a single parent household and then right underneath it, teaching consequences. You can't teach consequences if you and your husband are in a fight over what to do. Okay? I've been in the middle of that. So, mother and father separated. Father has custody this weekend of the kids. He spanked a child. Child calls 911. I showed up on that one. There's no injury in the child, absolutely none. Okay, there's no redness, there's no marks. Okay, this is what we got to do. So, anyway, long story short, this thing ultimately goes to court in a civil court. Okay, we end up in Edelman's child court. In Edelman's child court, there's a representative for the kid, a legal representative for the mother, and a legal representative for the father. There is no representative for the law enforcement officer whatsoever. So I sat there and I got brutalized by attorneys on how incompetent I was, that I didn't recognize injuries on this kid. And that there's nothing I can do. There's no one to represent me, I can't talk back, you just take it, okay? So when we talk about consequences, we have to do it smartly, we have to do it where we know we're teaching something, okay? When we talk about morality, it does start in the home. And I've been using this term ethics and morality when we talk about, where do we get that from? Okay, we get our morals and ethics from the faith that we take our families to, whether it's Christianity, whatever faith you're part of. That's where our morals and ethics come from.
Okay, thank you, Mark. I'm going to actually just pick up the last question here, the last area of discussion with Chris. And then I'll turn it over to Trish, who's going to do the Q&A session. She's putting all these questions together. So the last point is, and this is something kind of dear to my heart, because Black Lives Matter, I get it. I mean, Black Lives do matter. You want to, try to say something about that. But to me, their messaging and their tactics is elevating Black people over other races. So do you have any comment on perhaps like reverse discrimination and BLM? Sometimes I think it's only certain Black Lives Matter. So anyways, just comment on that.
Well, this is just my personal opinion. I have on my personal Facebook page, I'm real careful what I post, but everybody knows my stance, where I stand. Being proud of your race. Okay, it doesn't matter what race it is. Being proud of your race does not make you, should not make you anti any other race. Because when you think about it, none of us had a choice. Okay. My mother didn't say, well, wait, I want my kid to be black, God, so I want to put him in this line. No, it didn't work like that. Okay? Being proud of your race does not make you anti any other race. Whatever race you are, be proud of it, because you had no choice in the first place. Okay, but don't be anti anybody else. Okay, now I read, and I also read recently where there was, I don't know if it was connected to Black Lives Matter, maybe someone, other panelists may have heard it, or someone in the audience, where they said that they were going to grade African American children's paperwork different, assignments different from other races. And I read that and I was like, so what are you saying? What are you saying? And you're fighting for this? So are you saying that you're not capable of attaining a higher rate, a higher grade? So you have to worry, do you want to be equal, but at the same time, you want to be set above. You want special privileges. I don't want a job because I'm black. I'm just being out there. I mean, if Mark is more qualified for the job, guess what? Mark should get it. If I want the job, I need to do what it takes to get the job. I need to get the score that it takes to get the job. I don't want any special privileges, because I don't want later on for someone to say, oh, you only got that job because you're black.
Yeah, that's true.
That's just me. And that's how I raise my children.
Yes.
You want it, you fight for it. I work every day hard to give you an education so you can compete in society against anyone equally.
Yeah.
And that's what I work for. So yeah, so you can go out there and say, sometimes you hear the rhetoric and you like, well, you saying you want to be created equal or treated equally, but in a sense it sounds like you want to be getting privileges that other people aren't getting.
Black privilege.
We're
saying that.
So it does work.
Or Hispanic.
Discrimination is always going to be there because ignorance and people are always out there.
Yes.
Are there people that's just going to not like you because of what you look like or what I look like? Absolutely. But guess what? I move forward.
Yes.
I move forward because all of us are created equal, whether you want to believe it or not.
Yeah,
So discrimination is always going to be there. As long as you have people, you're going to have ignorance. You're going to have ignorance.
Are we ready to move on with some questions?
Yes.
No, I always find it interesting that we have all of these little white snowflake kids out there saying, only Black Lives Matter. I'm like, well, who are you?
Yeah, right.
You know, like, does that mean your life doesn't matter? I mean, I think that's an interesting question. Well, these questions, I was hoping I would find some commonality among the questions, but no, they're all different. So now we have like 25 questions, and how much time? Like, none. Anyway, so you have to rely on my judgment. One of the questions that was asked, and I will amend it a little bit, is why do police no longer use pressurized hoses for crowd control? And I had thought about that myself, like, why aren't they just bringing in water-dropping helicopters and taking out these people? You know, do we have some other means of controlling people, like with loud sounds or something else? So anyway, that's my amendment. So what else have we got?
Can we have just one person?
So that's a
answer?
great example
Hold on a
of.
second. Can we just have one person answer questions to the whole panel?
Uh,
That way we can.
Okay, yes, she's suggesting that we have one person tackle one question, and that way.
That's right.
You want me to answer that question?
Yeah, Mark looks like he's red chomping at the bit over that one.
Chris has already tapped out because this is yours. That's a great example right there of law enforcement constantly evolving and getting better. Okay, we get sued when we hurt people, even if it's justified. Okay, that, a lot of people don't realize that. Even if it's justified, we get sued. So a water cannon is pretty. I mean, I like the videos. I'm like, oh, check that out. I would not want to be the sergeant writing that paper. Okay. So we have, there's a lot of things. If you look at the Sheriff's Department's SRT team, there's a lot of less than lethal stuff they're using nowadays. And they also have, and I don't know the technology, I'll refer to it, but it emits a sound that causes your skin to burn or feel very uncomfortable. And it's called, it's like an area avoidance, so we can make people feel uncomfortable in this area and push them back.
It generates heat.
Yeah. So we have, there's technologies out there that are constantly evolving and developing, but the water cannon looks cool. You see it in communist countries, you see it in these other countries, European countries, but it is pretty
Dangerous.
it's very dangerous. So it's us trying to be better at what we do, and you know, we want to have people stop what they're doing without necessarily causing long-term injury. That's the whole concept of less than lethal.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about is a microwave.
Yeah, they can project.
Literally, it
Yeah.
generates a microwave.
I was gonna suggest that too.
Yeah, but, and I know we have one unit, but I've seen a lot of the military has a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, they do.
But I think they're trying to come up with innovative ways to do stuff.
The thing is, you gotta do things where it doesn't affect those that are not.
Right.
They're fairly tight and targeted.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool technology.
And mind you, law enforcement does best for us when it is actually reactive opposed to proactive. Okay, proactive law enforcement, a lot of people like that. The problem is we get in trouble for it because that means you're trying to intercede before a crime occurs. In reality, it's better for law enforcement to respond after a crime has occurred. That makes sense to you. Because now it's like, okay, this actually did happen, and we're reacting to it. Opposed to saying, we were pretty sure this person here was going to commit a crime. Well, now we get in trouble. So, all right, next question?
Thank you. Well, shoot, I think this thing is dying.
We can hear you.
Oh, there we go. This is a question related to the Latino community, and every time you turn around, it's like Black Lives Matter, and does that mean Latino lives don't matter? I mean, have you heard anything about the Latino community being concerned about this emphasis on the Black community, perhaps at their own expense?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can tell you when I was in Torrance with my buddies over here. I was in Torrance a few weeks ago, and we were doing the police rally. We were supporting the police, and Black Lives Matter showed up. There was a few of them. They came into, here's the uniqueness of it. We never really go on their side, but they come over to us and challenge it. But anyway, the point is they came into our camp where we were and started engaging, us.
Confronting.
And confronting. Yeah, right. That's a better word for it. And so they were confronting us, and there was this Latina woman who was on the corner. I walked over to her. She had two little boys with her. I still remember, little young guys, maybe about 10 years old or so, 9, and they were all looking because they had the mask on. I hated it because I couldn't really see what their real expression was. She had the mask and she had sunglasses on. And she's looking straight ahead, and she's holding up the sign, BLM matters, BLM. And so I said, BLM, does that, and I knew she was Latina. I said, does that mean brown lives matter or Black lives matter? See, again, questions.
Right.
So I just said, no, seriously. I said, do you mind if I ask you, what is that, do you mean Black lives or brown lives? Since it's both, spelled with a B there, brown, black. And she just kept looking. I said, I agree with you if you're saying, whether you say black or brown, I agree with that. But are you also aware that our Declaration of Independence, which is the organic founding document of this nation, Jefferson said that we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. So if the creator endowed us with these rights, then these rights they cannot be adjusted by government. These are rights that were inalienable, given to us.
Yeah.
So you got to go back to, again, the principles. That's the only way to win this battle. All this other stuff that we're doing, that a lot of people are doing, trying to hit them on emotion, is not. It's very short-lived. Emotion works, but only for a short time.
Yeah, that's
You've got to be able to instill into them. through constant recurrence to fundamental principles, as George Mason, fundamental. Keep going back to foundation. When I teach techniques, we go back to the fundamentals, over, repetition. That's how the left has won them over, by going repetitiously to the fundamental, it's not a fundamental principle, but they kept saying, oh, you're racist, you're racist, you're racist, you're racist, you're racist, you're racist. It's emotional. You're racist. Everything Trump does, he's racist. Everything you might do, you're a racist. Whatever you're, Thomas Jefferson's a racist. All the founders, George Washington's a racist. All of them are racist, but we never challenge them and come back to say, what do you mean by racist? How did you come to that conclusion? Explain in what ways he's racist. Why not ask those questions and demand an answer from them by continually asking them, and go back to that founding document. That's what I keep emphasizing, and I'll continue to, because that's the only way we really win this, is because we have God on our side when we do that. And I'll just say this, this is real. You look on your money, look on the dollar bill when you get a chance. On the back of the dollar bill on the left-hand side, there's a seal there. And you know that there's an eye at the top of the pyramid. Don't believe the false information about Masons and all that. Believe this, that eye represents divinity, divine
Almighty
eye,
God
looking over the nation. That's right. And you know what it says? It says annuit coptis. Annuit coptis means he favors our undertaking. He favored the revolution. It wasn't a resistance against government, it was resistance against those that oppose government. And that's what we have to do in order to get God on our side. There you are.
Thank you very much, that was great. So here's a question that says, when making cuts, because you had talked about how there isn't going to be any money and we're going to have to make cuts in something, is there a possibility that these law enforcement agencies and other public sector union types of jobs will be able to cut pensions as opposed to cutting current staff?
Well, that's just a mean question.
Speaking of a man with a pension.
Thank you.
All right, so it's a fair question. I'm not looking at the numbers directly, so I can give you my opinion, and that's what it's going to be. Okay, my opinion. So one is CalPERS. CalPERS is what California has for government employees retirement, okay, called CalPERS. CalPERS is in the negative, okay. A lot of municipalities have not paid. They can't pay. You know, they just didn't. Somebody wasn't a good math major when they started looking at this long term. Bottom line, and the up and downs of the way CalPERS invests. I also know that CalPERS, a lot of that money was invested into a Chinese company that makes missiles. Ironically. So there's a lot of things. If you Google CalPERS, there's a whole story that we can spend hours on that. So where CalPERS goes, I don't know. Now I can tell you this: Los Angeles County sheriffs aren't vested in CalPERS. We went private about 40 years ago. Okay, we went to a private entity. That's why we're not worried about CalPERS. Our retirement sets at either the number 1 or number 2 most solvent retirement in the country. Okay, it has plenty of money, a lot of money in it. The reason is because most of us die 2 years or so after retirement. Okay, that's the reality of it. The job is so stressful.
Yeah.
When the stress is relieved or taken off of us, our bodies we die. Okay, we just die. Whether it's cancer, strokes, heart disease, whatever it is, we die. That is a fact. You can Google that, you can research that. There's a lot of academia out there about how law enforcement tends to die shortly after retirement. Chris and I's goal is to make the county pay us as long as we were given to them. So I want to be around for another 29 years. He's got 32. Anyway, so we're not worried about that. Could that happen? Yeah. CalPERS is in a bad spot. But there's a lot of agencies that aren't tied up in CalPERS. They went private. So when we talk about unions are trying to support that private type style funding. I know there's some candidates in here that I actually helped with some of the questions what unions were asking about that back when we were all running. Yeah, the pensions could get cut, but you gotta understand where the pension money comes from. A lot of people aren't telling you this. Most law enforcement pensions are 80% employee driven. So I put in 80% of the money that I'm now getting back. It wasn't 100% taxpayer money. It's 80% my money that I paid. They took a massive chunk out every month, okay? And we don't pay into Social Security. Someone says Social Security, we don't pay into Social Security. That's why our pensions are so much nicer than Social Security, because we take a huge mass. I think I was paying $700 a month just into my retirement every month, and then some. And that's just dictated to us. And then those people invest it in all kinds of stuff, and it becomes, this ginormous thing.
That's great. That's good.
Okay, that is good to hear.
Good phone. This is a question for Chris. Chris, are there any police reforms now that you have observed in New Mexico, which would be good in California, since Chris is here from New Mexico?
No.
Short answer.
What happens in New Mexico?
Stays in New Mexico.
No. What's happening in New Mexico right now is whatever you see happening in California trickles down to New Mexico. Okay, so whatever Newsom does, you better believe that since our governor has made the short list for VP, whatever he does in California, it slowly trickles its way down to New Mexico. People are very, very upset, and they just recently started a recall for our governor there as well. Okay, but they also posted what the criteria was for that recall,
Right.
and said it's not going to happen. So
Not gonna happen.
it's kind of like the same thing that's happening here in California, unfortunately.
Okay, that was my question. I'm going to slip in a really quick question.
Okay.
Do you support constitutional carry for citizens?
Ooh. Well, you know what?
And that
Across
means-
state lines, like nationally.
Yeah, the constitutional
Yeah,
carry,
yeah.
and that means permitless carry, like what Arizona has or what Vermont has.
I have no problem with it personally.
Okay.
Because
Because you'd be surprised, there are some cops that, I don't like somebody carrying because I might get in trouble. I've had cops play that card, and that's very upsetting to me. Sorry, it's true.
I will tell you this, working for LA County Sheriff's Department, we were trained, everyone has a gun.
Okay?
The reason we come up on your car the way we do is because we assume you have a gun.
Okay.
You'd be surprised at how many people have a gun.
Oh, sure.
Okay? Yeah, and how many parolees have a gun. They're not supposed to, but I'm absolutely for constitutional carry.
Got it.
I think one of the greatest quotes is
Thank you.
an armed society is a polite society, right?
Say that again, I'm
An
sorry.
armed society is a polite society.
Oh, excellent.
Okay? And then two is, God created man and Sam Colt made him equal. But anyway,
Cool.
if you go to Texas, I have property in Texas, I have property in Arizona. They're all open carry states. You're just allowed to carry, okay? As long as it's open carry, you can carry. Guess what? People are pretty nice down there. I'm just telling you, they're quiet.
Not much
No
crime
one's
over there in
speeding up.
Prescott, Arizona.
So, I support Constitution, and there's rules to that, right? I don't want criminals to have it, I don't want police to have it.
Sure.
And I've always said gun ownership comes with responsibility.
Absolutely.
So-
What about New Mexico? What's it like there? I'm sorry, thank you. I'll be really quick.
the average person in New Mexico carries.
So it's open carry too, like,
It's open carry.
okay.
And which was.
Thanks,
a
everybody.
not a surprise to me, but being a cop from California, moving out there, I have a son who's a SWAT cop in Albuquerque. So we always talked about how do you approach a car, how do you do this, because here, yeah, exactly. Because here, we assume everybody has a gun. There, they do. They do. So we've had a lot of conversations about that.
Okay.
And I was, when I bought my house, my neighbor's son-in-law comes outside and he has a 45 on his waistband. I'm like going, and I still have that California mentality. I'm like, guys, he just got a gun.
Yep.
I go, I'm in New Mexico. I'm in New Mexico. So it takes some time to get used to seeing. Even when you travel from California to Arizona, and you see people with guns. It's like, okay, and after a while you go, oh, he's a good guy with a gun.
Yeah.
You know, so that bad guy's not gonna do anything because he doesn't know if grandma is gonna take him out.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Medea.
If you want to look statistically, those states that are open carry or even concealed carry, they can get their concealed permit. I want you paying attention to the stats for female assaults. They're going to be way down.
yes,
Thank you.
Okay.
yes.
A lot of people think, when we think about guns, y'all think masculinity.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you right now, the biggest benefit is our women.
Medea.
Women carry.
Piece of steel. Peace be still.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done, I promise.
That's
Thanks.
okay. I'd like to, I want to get this in before, we run out of time. How can, this is a room full of Republicans, okay? I assume that, how can we turn the tide red in Democrat-run inner cities? What do we need to do?
And
I mean, I know.
you all live there.
And, Ms. Gilliam talked about this earlier. We've got people in the inner city who are mostly affected by this defund the police thing and all this anarchy and the looting and the this and the that. And what can we do to get the Republican message in there that we stand for law and order and we want public safety and
I had a great opportunity to talk to a lot of Democrats when I was running for Congress as a Republican.
Huh.
I can tell you this right now. The Democrat, when I'm going to talk about mainstream Democrats, they're in a real difficult spot right now because their party's been hijacked by a socialist, communist agenda. They know it, and they're in a really, really tough place, okay? So here's the deal. As a Republican, I talk about protecting dignity for everybody in my community. That right there, that's a nonpartisan topic.
Yeah.
Okay, a nonpartisan topic. I don't have to wave a red banner on that. I think the best way to protect dignity, law and order, and things that are represented best by a conservative agenda, okay, opposed to a socialist, communist, Marxist agenda, which we're seeing. So I don't think it's that difficult. The two is, I think the Republican Party has to come out, be bold in our statements. I think that's why Trump has such a big following, is he's pretty bold about what he says. He's calling things the way they are. A lot of people don't like it, and he sticks to it. And then he'll back it up by facts, okay? So we have to be smart, we have to be bold, and we have to be big. And what I mean big is, you just take the pummeling that's going to come, and you see Trump doing that. But there's a lot of Republicans that aren't doing that, right? They're quiet.
Yep.
And then two is, look at this, I'm the only white guy in this panel. I mean, I'm loving this. I'm the minority here. I mean, how cool is this?
I didn't know that.
We've just got to be the example. We got to be big enough to where we say, okay, here's how we're going to do this.
Real quickly on that one, isn't it interesting? I'll guarantee. Anybody tell me if they thought about this. What he just said. Think about something here. On the left, in the thinking, the mindset of Democrat. Well, on the left, they usually would think, and I'm not saying that he was having that mind. I'm just saying what he just said. He says, "I'm the only white guy on the panel." Now, how many of you thought like that here? How many of you said, "Oh, there's a white guy with all the rest of them"?
Actually, I didn't think
Isn't
that.
that interesting?
Not until he said it.
You see?
I didn't think about
That's
it.
what I mean by mindsets.
Focusing on the woman over here.
Republican women.
But anyway, I just thought I'd make that observation because our minds we think differently. See, that's my point. It's the thinking of our nation. And I want to go again to education in the role of government. What is government's role in maintaining our freedom? It's self-government. That's a Christian ethic. I don't know of any other religion that really teaches it like Christianity. It's the role of government, which is self-government. Everybody in this room, is individually responsible for themselves and what is theirs. So this is what we have failed to teach to the previous generations. And I'm serious, all of us are involved in that, all of us. We
As
all
opposed to
take
the
that
collective.
authority. So anyway, that was what I wanted to say in regard also regulating, I'll just say it this way, regulating people is what the left does.
Yes.
Regulating people. But people who regulate themselves You know, it's not about regulating guns and knives and swords and sticks and all of those things, but it's a matter of us regulating ourselves and being trained and disciplined. Okay, so that's very important to me, is that we learn to be disciplined. A man who's disciplined, one of the phrase, a man who is disciplined, this is Proverbs 16:32. I'm paraphrasing, a man who's disciplined is greater than a man who
Can take
controls a
10
city.
cities.
Wow. That's
Okay,
awesome.
we're gonna do one more question, unfortunately, because we actually have to have everything cleaned up and out of here by 5 o'clock. But I did want to say, you know, a lot of these panelists, Chris came from New Mexico.
45.
She came from Riverside. San Bernardino, these folks are all on their own dime, and they don't charge me to speak. So I really want to pass the buck here. Chicana will come by. If you guys can help us out with some donations to help offset some of their gas costs or anything like that, please do. And she'll come by and take that. We're only going to get to about maybe one more question, and we're going to have to wrap this up. So I'm going to let Trish pick the final golden question. And then everybody else, you know, hopefully the panelists will stay, and you can talk with them on one-on-one and get their information. Their biographies are on the table if you'd like to take their name and contact them later. But here's the final question, and then we'll have to wrap up. Thank you.
Okay, well, you had to trust me on this one. I'm going to go to a different sort of topic here, and the question is, where are our Christian leaders to step up and refuse to execute stay out of church orders? So,
I went to church today.